Alexandria, Egypt, 48 BC. The richest city on earth, and its rightful queen cannot get inside it. She is 21 years old. Her little brother's generals control the palace, the army, and the treasury, and they have made it clear, if she returns, she dies. Meanwhile, the most powerful man in the world, Julius Caesar, has just landed in her capital with a Roman army. Every ruler in the East is wondering how to reach him. The exiled queen solves it in one night. She has herself rowed across the harbor in a small boat, wrapped inside a traveling sack, some say a rolled carpet, and carried through her enemies' checkpoints as luggage, straight into Caesar's rooms. The sack opens, and out steps Cleopatra. This is the story of the last pharaoh of Egypt, and of a mind that turned weakness into leverage more brilliantly than anyone in the ancient world. Start with what Cleopatra was not. She was not Egyptian. Her family, the Ptolemies, were Macedonian Greeks, descended from one of Alexander the Great's own generals, who had seized Egypt when the empire shattered. For nearly 300 years, the Ptolemies had ruled from Alexandria the way absentee landlords run an estate. Brothers marrying sisters, fathers murdering sons, and not one of them, in 10 generations, bothering to learn the language of the people they taxed. Cleopatra was the first. She spoke Egyptian, along with, the ancients claimed, 8 other languages. She read philosophy, medicine, and finance. Where her ancestors performed the role of pharaoh, she studied it, sailing the Nile, honoring the temples, letting Egypt's priests crown her as the incarnation of the goddess Isis. Her family gave her a kingdom, rotting from the inside. She gave it something it had not had in centuries, a ruler who did the homework. Now look closely at the carpet trick, because it is not a stunt, it is a thesis. Cleopatra understood that she had exactly one asset left, herself, delivered to the right man at the right moment. Everyone else approached Caesar through ministers and letters. She arrived as a surprise, a story, an event, and Caesar, the greatest showman in Roman politics, recognized a fellow professional instantly. Within weeks, he had taken her side in the civil war. Within months, her brother was dead in the Nile, and Cleopatra sat on the throne of Egypt, this time alone. She gave Caesar a son, Caesarion, and when she visited Rome, the old republic gasped. Caesar installed a golden statue of her in the temple of his own ancestor, Venus, an Egyptian queen, in Rome's holiest new sanctuary. Then came the Ides of March. The daggers that killed Caesar also cut away Cleopatra's entire position in one afternoon. She slipped out of Rome and sailed home, a queen again without a protector, in a world about to be carved up by angry men with armies. Rome's world split between Caesar's avengers, Octavian, his cold, calculating teenage heir in the west, and Mark Antony, his charismatic general in the east. In 41 BC, Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus to answer accusations. Summoned like a client state, Cleopatra read the invitation and understood the game perfectly. Antony needed Egypt's money for his wars, which meant he needed her more than she needed him. So she staged the most famous entrance in history. She sailed up the river in a barge with a gilded stern and purple sails, silver oars beating time to flutes, dressed as Venus herself beneath a canopy of gold, while the whole city emptied to watch from the banks. Antony, waiting to sit in judgment, found himself abandoned in an empty square, then invited to dinner on her boat. The accused had become the host. Plutarch says the feast's floor was knee-deep in roses. The strategy was the same as the carpet, scaled up, never enter on their terms. Make your entrance the argument. What followed was more than the ancient world's most famous love affair. It was a merger. Antony got the wealth of Egypt behind his armies. Cleopatra got Roman legions behind her dynasty, and something greater. In 34 BC, at a ceremony in Alexandria, Antony sat beside her on a golden throne and distributed Rome's eastern territories to her children, Armenia, Media, parts of Syria and Lebanon, with Caesarion proclaimed King of Kings. Historians call it the donations of Alexandria. For Cleopatra, it was the project of a lifetime taking shape. A Greek-Egyptian empire ruled from Alexandria with her bloodline, hers and Caesar's, at its head. But in Rome, Octavian turned those golden thrones into the greatest propaganda campaign in ancient history. He did not declare war on Antony. That would be civil war, and Romans were tired of it. He declared war on her, the foreign queen who had, he said, bewitched a Roman general, stolen Roman lands, and meant to rule Rome itself from the Nile. It worked. Italy rallied, and in 31 BC, two fleets met off the western coast of Greece at a place called Actium. Actium, September 31 BC. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet was bottled up in a gulf, riddled with malaria and desertion, supplies cut by Octavian's brilliant admiral, Agrippa. The battle itself was strange and brief. Antony's heavy warships lumbered out and grappled with Octavian's lighter, faster fleet. Then, mid-battle, Cleopatra's squadron of 60 ships, carrying the entire war treasury, hoisted sails and broke through the center, heading south for Egypt. Antony abandoned his own fleet, his own men, and chased her. The fleet surrendered. The army, waiting on shore, surrendered a week later without a fight. Ancient writers told it as a love story, the general who threw away the world for a woman. Modern historians suspect something colder, a planned breakout to save the money and fight another day, which collapsed the moment the men watching from the decks decided it looked like betrayal. Either way, the lesson cuts deep. Cleopatra had spent her life mastering the theater of power. At Actium, the theater turned against her. The breakout read as flight, the flight as doom, and no fleet fights for a cause it believes has already left. Octavian took Alexandria a year later. Antony told falsely that Cleopatra was already dead, fell on his sword, and died, says Plutarch, in her arms. Cleopatra, captured, tried one last time to read the man in front of her. But Octavian was the one Roman her methods could not touch. No romance, no theater, no imagination, only arithmetic. He needed her alive for exactly one purpose: to be paraded through Rome in chains at his triumph, the foreign witch defeated. She had seen that parade. She knew precisely what her role in it would be. So she staged one final scene on her own terms. Dressed in her royal robes, on a golden couch, with her two loyal maids beside her, she died by the bite of an asp smuggled past her guards in a basket of figs, says the legend. By a hidden poison, say the skeptics. Octavian's men found her already crowned in death, her maid arranging the diadem with her last strength. Even her enemies, the story goes, could not help admiring it. She was 39. With her died the dynasty of Alexander's general, and Egypt, 3,000 years, a kingdom, became a Roman estate. So what did Cleopatra know? She inherited a losing hand, a bankrupt dynasty, a resentful country, a world owned by Roman armies, and for 22 years she played it against the two most powerful men alive, as an equal. Her method was always the same. Everyone else negotiated with Rome from a throne, through protocol, and lost. Cleopatra understood that before any negotiation begins, there is a moment when the other side decides what you are. A supplicant, a province, a threat, an equal. And she seized control of that moment every single time, out of a carpet, off a golden barge, so that by the time talks began, the category was already settled. Presentation was not vanity. It was the battlefield where she won before the meeting started. But Actium teaches the limit. An image can win you the room and lose you the fleet. The performance that dazzles allies can read as betrayal to the men who row your ships. She mastered how she entered every room in the world, except the last one, where a man with no imagination was waiting with a ledger. Control what you are in their eyes, and know which audience actually decides your fate. Next time, 18 centuries later, another outsider lands in Egypt chasing Alexander's ghost, a penniless lieutenant from a conquered island who will crown himself Emperor of the French. Napoleon. Subscribe and step into the minds that made history.